This meeting is being recorded.
You heard her. So welcome to the Wise Crowd's Liberating Structures design call. Our goal today is going to be to offer some consultation to some folks that are interested in applying liberating structures to their local context. You not hear me? It's bad, sketchy. And we're going to do that with the use of two different patterns. The first pattern is easy to talk about. It's called Wise Crowds. Someone's going to offer us a design brief and take on the role of client. And they're going to take just a couple minutes to explain the scenario, the context, the purpose, the participants, and the particulars of their help request. And then we're going to take a couple minutes as a group to ask clarifying questions about that help request. Clarifying questions are tricky. They're not necessarily coaching questions. They're genuine, bona fide, give me some more information. And they are not, importantly, advice hidden as questions. But after those clarifying questions, the client will sort of remove themselves from the call by muting themselves and turning off their webcam, but importantly, listening as we, the rest of the Wise Crowd, offer consultations to the client. And this can just be your reflection, your advice. The specific patterns, tools, strategies are obviously very, very desirable and recommended. And after about 7 or 8 minutes of that, then we will, the client will return and offer us a reflection of, what they found particularly salient, relevant, helpful, valuable, so on and so forth. At which point we'll then rotate to the next client and just keep going based on what we've got. I know that Anne had submitted a design brief, or her partner Jeff had. So since we've got preparation there ready to go, actually, before I do jump in, does anybody have any question about how the pattern or of Wise Crowds will work?
I know, but Jeremy, you did say there were 2 strategies or something. Was there another model or something?
Yeah, an additional pattern that we used. This one's a bit harder to describe. So let me see if I can source the link for the design brief that we, or for the, what I mean is the design storyboard is an additional liberating structure that we can use to basically plan out a meeting, workshop, event, so on and so forth. So let me get the design storyboard for this guy. That we'll have to do. And a design storyboard basically just helps us to arrange some of the tools and structures that we have into a bit of an order of operations or a procedure, or in the liberating structures jargon, we would call that a string of structures. And that I normally take notes on, but don't show on the screen because that's too much work. But that's a link to the doc that I use for design storyboards. There's all types of different help requests, I believe, in this design storyboard. And if you want, you can take notes along with us. So that would be pattern number 2. That's sort of embedded within pattern number 1. Any other questions? All right, let's rock and roll. Anne, do you want to tell us about your design brief?
Yeah, do you understand me well? Because I get you in bits and pieces. Yeah, okay, I hope it will work well. We are organizing a meetup, a Sociocracy 3.0 meetup, actually. So that's a little team based in Flanders of 6-7 people who have the intention to have a monthly meetup, and it can happen in person or online, in Dutch or in English. And now edition of next week is in English, online, and we have chosen DAOs. So decentralized autonomous organizations as our topic. But since it's a series of Sociocracy 3.0 meetups, we want to investigate what both can mean for each other. I don't know how familiar you are with either DAOs or Sociocracy 3.0. Do I need to explain that a little bit? Sociocracy 3.0 is patterns for conscious collaboration, and DAOs is it familiar enough, or is someone needing? No need to explain.
I don't know what any of those things are, but if you don't have to, you can keep moving.
Oh God, can we please, for the love of Christ, avoid explaining DAOs? It's so hard. Let's just say, for the sake of simplification, a DAO is an acronym. It stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And the easiest way to put them in a big catch-all is just imagine like a Facebook group that had a shared bank account. So, I mean, and you can imagine that Facebook group might do all types of things to organize itself in all types of different ways, because Facebook groups are random collections of human beings that are interested in different things.
Thank you. So we have this meetup. People who will come know some things about Sociocracy 3.0, but they might not know anything about DAOs. I don't know anything about DAOs. Jeff, who is hosting together with me, doesn't know much about DAOs either, I suspect. So we have invited Jeremy as our guest and co-host to be the DAO expert. So we want to learn from him. And people who will show up will know a bit about Sociocracy 3.0, most likely, but we don't suspect them to know much about DAOs, but we are not sure either. So the idea, or what we have put in our invitation, is that we will have an introduction about DAOs, so DAOs for Dummies. It's a buzzword, you hear it, but then no one knows precisely what it is. It's hard to explain. And then we want to learn together, basically. So the idea is that people, when they leave the meetup, they have some more tangible sense of what DAOs are, and as well how Sociocracy 3.0 and DAOs, how it could go together or enrich each other. Meetup will be an hour and a half. We could add like 30 minutes more as a fade out time, but it needs to happen in a short time. And the number of people that we expect is, well, 25 is our guess at this point, but it can go anyway. Anything else?
Clarifying questions.
Yeah, I have immediately, like, what is clear for the group why you're exploring DAOs and sociocracy? So what is the goal of combining these two for your special meetup there?
What is the goal of combining it? Well, somehow the series is Sociocracy 3.0, so that's each time the topic, and we have like a bit of an audience for that, but it's pandemic and summer holiday, anyhow, is, well, not fully stable. And through this Sociocracy 3.0 lens, we look at what's interesting to expand our view, actually. And Sociocracy 3.0 is how people can organize things together in a way that's based on principles as equivalence, transparency, consent, continuous improvement, and some others. And DAOs seem to be something new that embody a lot of those principles, like it's like brother and sister somehow, like there's similarity, but there's differences as well. So it's a bit like it's close enough to each other to combine. And we suspect that people who come to our Sociocracy 3.0 meetups, well, that a part of them is interested to know about DAOs.
Can I just for a follow-up before I give it to you, Rachel? Is that okay with you and with you, Jeremy? So the group of people who are coming together, they're just interested in these topics. You're not using them to kind of find a new structure for yourself. It's about a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Do I get it right? Okay.
Yeah. 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 And who knows, once in their life, they might be inspired.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. I have a question, Anne. Thank you for that. What are you worried about?
What am I worried about? Maybe how to serve all the different needs. We do not know at this moment what people exactly are sitting with, what they would like to know. So that's my main concern. Like, how do we hear and serve the participants who are there beyond ourselves? Of course, I want to learn as well. But it's not like huge worry, it's more like inquiry, like, how do we design it to learn together? Because it's people who have mostly nothing to do with each other and might have various backgrounds. I think most are working in traditional organizations, but like shifting a bit, but not those will be new to them. It's like, yeah, meeting the highly divergent needs somehow.
And Rachel, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah. I'm curious, is that the way it's done here? Do we raise our hands or do you just wait till there's an opening? I guess that's maybe a question for another place and time, but just to say, I now am curious. But my question for Anne, having had some experience trying to integrate sociocracy into group processes, it turned out to be, for us, quite a bit more complex and required, I think, a steeper learning curve than we were expecting. And we found that to be somewhat challenging in our context. I'm just wondering, is there someone who is guiding this or providing training or providing some moderation for this group if it's new to most of the people who are part of it?
Yeah, for Sociocracy 3.0, we have Jeff, who will be co-hosting the meetup, and he's really like giving trainings for many years in Sociocracy 3.0, very super experienced. It's like the Flemish guru somehow, if I may call him like that. So Sociocracy 3.0 experience is fully present in the room.
Any other clarifying questions, or do we have enough?
What is the, so I'm putting my hands. What is, when will you be happy at the end of the evening? What is,
if participants are like excited and like happy, and if there's like energy in the room. And I think it comes with when they feel that they have learned something that is meaningful for them.
yeah.
All right. Well, with that, and if you want to turn off your webcam and mic, but importantly, listen as we spit raps, we will explore and consult.
Thank you.
And my primary question for the wise crowds is, if we can, like I said, reflections, recognition, all that stuff is good, but if we can sort of narrow down to what structures do we know that might help organize this time together for this group, that would be, and then of course, how might we string them together? That would be our ultimate goal. So what comes up for you guys?
I think maybe I'm still curious, and I'm new to this, so you'll have to forgive me for being kind of a bumbling person here. But it's like, I think I'm not really clear what is the desired outcome. And I think it would help me to be able to offer more wisdom if I had a better sense of what it is. I mean, she said she hopes people leave feeling energized and happy, but structurally, I'm wondering, is it just about how people feel? Is that what the goal is here, is to bring people together to learn this process? Or is there something that they're hoping to achieve through this process? And that was probably should have been a clarifying question that I should have asked and missed my window. So, but maybe someone else heard something I didn't. So maybe I would ask that.
I mean, I certainly have information regarding that. The goal is really just to say, hey, there's a bunch of people interested in the topic of sociocracy, of process, of group collaboration. There seems to be a new domain or a new area, or a new trend in that context of self-organization, and that is this idea of a DAO. So to just introduce that new space to these participants as a potential playing field, I think is at least my intention or understanding. Anybody else?
Maybe also another clarifying question to you, Jeremy, in that respect, how you maybe also see it coming, because DAO. So would be your hope also as a co-facilitator, expert, whatever, to see what is possible between those two, the sociocracy and DAO, kind of where the overlaps are, because why else would you want to combine that in this meetup?
So if I understand, the invitation would be to sort of explore into the overlap between S3 and DAOs. And so what comes up to mind there is a particular practice called integrated autonomy. Integrated autonomy is often used with a different pattern called wicked questions. The basic idea behind integrated autonomy is to find the middle point in your Venn diagram, right? So where's S3 and where is DAOs, and like literally what is the middle ground, the overlap there. And so if there's still some squishiness to how we could actually explore those topics, but I think that, yeah.
Yeah, and if someone else, I'm now getting into my brain is working quickly. So if someone else, I don't want to take the host, but so if someone else, please interrupt me. Yeah, I don't want to dominate it here. I'm wondering, and that is maybe a question, and also for Anne to think about when she. Because she probably, I can imagine, knows the people, if they are completely new to obviously they're not completely new to sociocracy, because that is a series of things that's what I heard, but they will be new to DAO. I'm wondering, with the wicked question and this kind of overlap, what my thought was here right now, is that already too deep for newbies like me? I would be probably like, I would have to know first sociocracy a little bit more, and then fishbowl, and then the DAO a little bit more. So maybe it's more about kind of fish bowls or something like that. And having those two experts, now you talking about it, and then maybe letting people reflect upon it for themselves or in small groups or something like that. So I'm wondering how high, and that probably Anne has to knows maybe best, how high the complexity can already be, or where people are getting lost in a way as well with these new concepts.
Righteous. I think that's a great possibility space to just like let me and Jeff sort of chop it up and talk shop about the different concepts. I also think there's a very related structure. So the user experience fishbowl is basically a few people in the midst of the participating in the conversation, with everybody else sort of participating by observing the conversation. and between those people, the kind of invitation is like, imagine that like Warren Buffett and like George Soros were taking a taxi, and you just got to like, listen in on their conversation. And then after that initial conversation, usually the observers break into breakout groups and have some conversation, revealing and generating additional questions for the fish, so to speak. A related pattern that could also be interesting is the celebrity interview. A celebrity interview requires a little bit more preparation, generating some initial questions. I mean, it's basically just creating a talk show. So rather than, in this instance, me, standing there and giving my PowerPoint presentation, this is what DAOs are, to just to sort of host an inquiry and guide, throw questions at me that I can respond to. That might be another pattern that could be helpful in that respect. Anybody else?
That was sort of what you're alluding to is sort of what I was thinking, is that, to start off, it might be nice to have people who, for better lack of a better word, are sort of experts, or who are a little further down the path, to report back and kind of give some framing and give some inspiration, give some, do a little storytelling, create a little narrative, kind of invite people in so they can kind of see some real life patterns of how this is actually working somewhere, so that people can, take some of the abstract and make it a little bit more concrete. I'm not knowledgeable enough about DAO to think about who that might be, but I know there are people who are doing some pretty cool things with sociocracy. So I'm certain there must be people out there who could, maybe be the interviewees or whatever for these processes.
I would also reckon that like some aspects of those like can be sometimes better explained with what they are not, kind of, in real world. Like, hey, it's not like there's a hierarchy, or you got your right to be there, like standing equal with the others, and what you want to do, you can do in time, like select, so let's say, roles. Maybe normally what you can't do in a regular company, or there it's more flexible, but conveying that to people might be not maybe not easy just by text. I'm also having trouble in such stuff, so it's at some point I guess that's the only high priority responsibility one can take, like to explain what it is and what it is not, and then say, hey folks, just dig in, you'll find something for you there in those, or I don't know, I just I guess it was like some commentary, or I don't know.
Well, there's two patterns that jump up to me in what you guys are sharing that could be relevant. So around this idea of recognizing what the disparity in terms of familiarity and experience is, some form of what we would call a folding spectrogram. So basically just create a line graph and invite everybody. This could be done visually on like a mural board, but it can also be done very simply in the chat, like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being low, 5 being high, what's your familiarity with what a DAO is, right? And on the basis of that, we could already start with some initial sense making of like, oh, okay, so this is where we're at. And if we wanted to be really sort of fancy, we could figure out a way to sort of pair where knowledge is with where knowledge is absent, and create some interaction around that. And then this question about what DAOs are not, what jumps out to me is the exercise TRIZ, right? So say that you are in a Facebook group with a shared bank account, how could you turn this into the worst possible, experience for everyone. And that would give us a pretty gruesome outline of the negative space we want to avoid, and then we can think about how we could use the tools of S3 to avoid those pitfalls, those outcomes. So that might be a good vibe too. Anybody else?
What is coming up as well, also with regards to what Anne said, that she wants people to kind of go home with, oh, I learned something useful, is to make it kind of to invite them, and I'm curious what structure is coming up for you in that respect, to think about, kind of let them learn about an aspect like you've been just sharing, maybe by pairing up people, and then let them ask each other or themselves, so how would I apply that to a challenge that I'm having right now, to a group that I am leading right now, that I'm part of right now? So what of the aspects would I implement in my current environment in order to kind of not only have it like a nice entertainment, but to
Do we lose her? Yeah, this is an interesting invitation, this prompt towards practicality. It's always delightful. The structure that jumps out to me is 15% solutions, right? So to invite folks to think about, all right, if we're on this, my hypothesis is that, within the next 10 years, like a lot of organizations are going to start to scramble to become DAOs. So if that were the case, what would be the 15% version of that larger solution? What might be the first baby steps that could be taken within the constraints of the context, with no more time, no more resources, no more authority, but thinking about that long-term view, what might be this sort of tools and skills you want to bring into context to help people prepare for that? Anybody else? So one thing I noticed that I did not do in this call was explain the sort of learning journey with liberating structures, and offer some particular invitations for those that are new early in the learning journey to enable their participation. So why don't I ask Anne to come back and tell us what she thought about our consultation, and then I will share those. This is where Anne frantically tries to find the button, right? So Anne, what did you find insightful, valuable? What do you think you can use based on our consultation?
Lots of things. I would love to dive deeper in liberating structures, actually. It's inspiring. One thing, setting the scene very clearly, like the first 5 minutes must be more clear than I have introduced it now, because I feel a bit annoyed that some people are like, what's sociocracy? What's that? I was like, no, have a very clear introduction. It wasn't said, but it comes to mind to me now. Fishbowls, I love it. It's well, having the experts, but also inviting like 2 or 3 other people to have a chance to be in the conversation. Lovely idea. Yeah, observers in breakouts and generate new questions. I love that as well. And to have them ping pong with each other, like what's really now the thing that we want to ask, and to, yeah, seems a good method not to have like 30 questions, but like something that can be done in the call. Yes, celebrity interview could be worth as well to look into, like how do we do this introduction and the storytelling as well. I also would like to have a sense of what is a DAO like in real life. So and I think we have Jeremy to ask or to share his story, and not only from a conceptual, but from like, how is it like? Yep, line graph, or the having participants in the beginning, like making clear like where they are at. So it's as well super valuable. Oops, unstable connection. The negative space we want to avoid, and the S3 patterns, I'm a bit unsure how it looks like, but it's where Sociocracy 3.0, well, you mentioned trysts. It would be something for me to look up, like what is it precisely, but it's intriguing in the sense that it helps to, well, to make the combination with Sociocracy 3.0 and what can that add to DAOs. And then the practicality, I am less sure. It might be that it's too far from people's bed, that they want to learn, to explore, but I'm not sure if people who are like, for instance, like working in a big bank, if they can take practical steps towards a DAO, it feels a bit like, I get a sense to make it practical, but that's where I'm hesitating. Like, but maybe others are more in spaces where they are more free to do something. I have no clue about that. So I feel like there's a lot of building blocks and even like too many. Was super rich. Feels like enough. Just needs like an order and a priority. And yeah, thank you so much.
Totally. I could see an interesting string sort of lining up with, after that initial setting the scene, starting off with that folding spectrogram, and then moving into even arranging some additional dialogue around that folding spectrogram to generate the questions, actually. So if you did something like 1, 2, 4 all based on the knowledge or lack of knowledge sort of in the group, to brainstorm the questions that we would then either take into the fishbowl or into the celebrity interview. And then this idea around Triz still seems a lot of fun, but maybe something else completely to close out the day. I would say with those 3 acts, you would actually have a pretty full hour and a half. Ta-da! And that's how we design a string, kids. So again, this idea of string, just going from one of these structures or patterns or games, however you want to think of them, and we can already see how, starting with this idea of this documentation to create also an artifact of what's our familiarity, also gives us the opportunity to follow up with that at the end. So now, based on this experience, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you get this idea of DAOing? It'll be interesting to see how much more confused people are after the end of the hour and a half than when they started. A year deep, and it's definitely no less now than I thought I did then. But again, this idea of starting off with this brief survey and then having some interaction around that, with the intent of the output of that portion of the conversation being to generate questions that we can use as the input for this next part, whether that be in the form of a celebrity interview, which basically looks like question and answer for me, right? As the celebrity expert. Oh, I have an allergy to that. Probably something for me to learn there. Or in the context of the user experience fishbowl, where, me and a couple other people could basically just sift through those questions and have a conversation about the ones that are the most recognized. And then moving into this idea of sort of, all right, so now that we've got some feel for what the questions were, we've got some information, in this environment, if we were doing this thing to think about, again, what is from the S3 toolkit might be particularly useful via this structure of TRIZ. And TRIZ, to sort of unpack that, asks us to actively brainstorm what could create the worst possible outcomes that we would normally want to avoid. So I usually like to use a bit of a trickster frame. So, say that you have just been possessed by, whatever your version of the trickster god is, Coyote, Loki, Raven, Hermes, they're everywhere. If you've been possessed by the trickster god and, you're just there to create maximum mayhem, what would you actively do to create the most chaotic and worst possible outcomes? And, there's always a subgroup of people that's a little edgy for, but generally speaking, like Paula, I see you smiling there. Like there's a good time to be had in thinking about, ooh, how do I make a mess of things, right? And so starting with that laundry list of basically, we know these things are going to create bad outcomes. We can then sift through that list and go, okay, which of those things are we kind of doing, even in small, subtle ways? Like, ooh, this one, like, yeah, we recognize that we're doing that. Maybe not so extreme, but there's a partial truth in our current context. And then to use that list of things that we recognize and then go, okay, basically, how do we stop doing those things? And so that could be a very specific exercise in the context of S3 to go, okay, what are the patterns of S3 that could help us in particular stop this behavior that we recognize leads to negative outcomes? And then everybody goes home happy and we're all friends and stuff like that. So I hope that gives some context of this idea of sort of what we're doing within the frame of this pattern, this structure, and trying to use the structures to create more structures, right? In this sort of self-replicating, thing. Also, one of the thing that I didn't mention as we sort of end this consultation is the Liberating Structures learning journey has a sort of growth hierarchy, and that growth hierarchy you can also see on that design storyboard document. You'll see a visual towards the top that says the Liberating Structures development phases. So some of you are probably in some form of despairing cynic development phase, meaning that you're not explicitly familiar with any structures. And so in this context, what's up, Sherry? Oh, reshare the link for sure. Bang, there you go. So in the context of despairing cynics, not familiar with much any structures, you might wonder, like, how do I participate then in this call in ways that are beneficial? You don't see, oh, that's because I sent it to the waiting room participants, all of the no one there. Everyone in meeting, there we go. Is it there now? We good? Awesome. Cool. So people that don't have a lot of familiarity with liberating structures can actually play an extraordinarily valuable role, and because you don't have the same biases that I do. So it's really hard, generally speaking, but you kind of have like a free run at asking the why question of like, why do you think that will work? And sort of challenging the assumptions that I and perhaps the rest of the group bring. Like I said, it's a tricky role, but I mean, lean all the way into it while you can, and just, ask the hard question and challenge the underlying assumption if you can. For folks that are sort of in the cautious optimist phase, if you recognize, 4, 5, 6 structures, but not too many, then what you can do is help to make sure I and the rest of the group don't get too presumptive and start talking in jargon that is unfamiliar to you. So that looks like asking for clarification. Hey, you said this thing, and I don't understand what that means. Like, just surfacing where we're being a bit presumptive, and really forcing us to unpack all of these things so we can talk about them. This is the order of operations, so that you and everybody else in the room can get some familiarity about what these things mean and how they can actually be used. And then for the Rapture super users, right, for those of you that do have some familiarity with, say, plus or minus half of the Liberating Structures Toolkit, 10, 12, 15, help me from not completely dominating this space, and try and explain the things that you're not sure that you can explain perfectly. I mean, generally speaking, I know I actually, for the very first time, I now know everybody in this room. There's usually some randos in here as well, but I know everybody in here. This is a pretty warm room, so feel free to try and explain a thing and just see how it goes. And I've got your back in that respect. And then for the minimalists, the maestros of like myself in the house that, are pretty familiar with the whole toolkit, I can be of greatest service by shutting the fuck up and giving space for other people, and then building on that with my experience. So that might be a particular way that you can activate participation to ensure that we all have a super awesome good time learning experience. So speaking of shut up, does anybody else have another design brief or help request that we can work on?
I got one actually.
All right, hit us, Tolga.
Hey, it's been a bit dark here. So like for some months, I'm working on some world peace project. It's evolved naturally. Like Jeremy knows about it, how it was, and now how it is. But it turned out that came out some synthesis out of it, like mutually assured destruction, like some thesis for 20th century, then defined like antithesis for it, mutually assured regeneration for this century, let's say. And then that synthesis became something to untie a knot, or if not breaking a chain, which is a peace by or through equality, which I'm going to also articulate on World Peace article in Wikipedia. But the thing is, it's on blockchain, so it's about making accumulation of intentions and wills of everybody observable, resilient in a way. And it's I'm building tools so people can use their rights if they would. It's about being a standing equal on peace and trust making. Like everybody is equal, like whether a head of state or any person. So otherwise, it's like 20,000 bilateral agreements could have, but it's not happening. For example, there is a war, but everybody is against to the aggressor, but they don't make peace within themselves, like 190 countries, let's say. They gotta make the peace in between, like as if scaling European Union somehow in that perception of threat. And what I want is, in the long term, I will come to where I stuck right now, but how I see is I think our generation's not going to be making war if we can really have that time on this earth, but like maybe in some decades. But I want to catalyze that and see in my life for sure, and use those resources for defense tax, for example, globally in a synchronization where every country get rid of that, because we assure that as citizens. But there are many parts that's worth telling. What I'm stuck is that's how I started right now. And since August, I launched the app. And right now there are people helping me out a little. I want to activate, see more activation in the, see more active community. I believe in humanity, and I want humanity believe in itself. It's just trying to make it so easy, like using any other social platform. So it's based on expressions and acknowledgements of peace. This is the homepage. If I may share a screen, doesn't matter, but like, please put like, it will work too. There is some plan I'm working on and completed 2 parts roughly. I'm not perfectionist in the how things done, not planning like, hey, this is milestone. There is that one, but right now I'm trying to make the homepage really, you know, like a maybe standard something, like everybody gets that. There's some user stories I'm preparing, like trying to prepare, or illustrations. I'm just, I just got a lot of, I just got a lot of pushbacks and all that, but in terms of like how people don't trust themselves, like making that change possible with the least effort they could make, but they didn't do it. But I know that I have that responsibility to make it really, really well conveyed, understood. So I'm trying to, all I think is it's all about making use of it, and then see that if that's going to be reflected by our states, and if we can empower them to do that. Like some, it's actually some decentralizing diplomacy. So we mimic, there's a mimicry of diplomacy, like there's an expression, there are constants, dynamics and conditionals of world peace, but these are like potentials. But what I want, and why I made this open source, or like not making a, like, hey, first I build everything and then, you know, launch, is some kind of urgency I got. And I learned how to not expect that from people, but I'm expecting some level of awareness, but it's not like that I should really, you know, expect too much, or like make it like anything that will help. That's what I know. And when I make it open source, I really wanted to make it like just backing with that right. And there are gonna be circles of peace. I just want to say, like, that is, I mean, there is Discord and stuff, but I can share its YouTube video to just some, like, whoever first made peace and acknowledge to each other, it's like basic transactions and free right now. They will go to some virtual space where they can further talk about really impact projects, and fundings I want go into those projects. Like, so it's like a, it's about like when they do it, for example, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, number 10 being equality between states. But here people are actually going to power, having that power, the might of states, or like the.
So let's try and open this up for clarifying questions, because I think we've already got a lot of information which might actually be prohibitive towards us getting to advice. So does anybody have a particular clarifying question there that is burning?
Well, this is Eileen. I guess for me, it's really what, how can we specifically help you? Like, this is such a huge problem. It's astonishing. like how could we be helpful today to you? In what specific way?
It could be really great, like for this project to connect, bring in more perspectives, like asking first, how would you imagine, express, acknowledge, and make a world peace? You know, like I really want to get help on reaching out to people that want to change and give some shoulders on that, or hand, or brain, or anything. But I would say, like, really concretely, that I need help in organization. I need help in if you check that YouTube channel, there is the last one. I just made that, like, Circles of Peace. It's gonna be launched as a circlesforimpact.org. It's not there yet, just purchased. And they all gonna be combined in this demo verse.
So just to
So-
try and clarify, so it
Just
sounds like we could
more-
help you by offering ways that you might invite other people to help you.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I need connections, but like real people that want to change, they are already there. But I think that would be easy when they see something really. I don't know. I can get your
Sure, for
feedback.
sure.
I don't know if that's.
I'm gonna interrupt you again, Tolga, because
Yeah.
I think that what I gather is that what you want help is finding the others that might be able to help contribute to this project that you're working on.
You are more than enough, man. Just these people right here could make it real. I'm gonna say that because it's like
It looks like Rachel has a question, so
even, yeah. Right,
So I know that the clarifying questions have to be careful not to get into like couching advice, but there's something I want to test, and I'm hoping that's okay. Because what I'm experiencing here with Tolga is that, Tolga, you are a verbal processor. Is that you need people to talk to in order to figure out what it is you're thinking. And I might be wrong in that, but that's a world I live in. And I find that in order to really organize my thoughts, I need a circle of people to process with. And I'm wondering if that is a part of what you're asking for here.
I think I didn't get that really. That last
Okay.
part. Verbal processor. That's yeah, you're right. I mean, I just basically I believe world deserves the best, and I want to deliver the best. And this can be only some person's version. And I want to see, like, maybe hundreds of projects people start in such thing that they don't think it's a utopia anymore. Because I try to give this like, with the least effort you can make something, and then wait for it, like what's gonna happen if your state gonna really reflect you, or delegate that power, share that power with people. Because, like, why not? And I'm trying to also add expression of demand there. Demand being, I think that word demand is always something like, hey, what? So what?
Rachel, it looks like you're
Like, I really want to have this campaign, like, hey, if you're a politician, if you're a political party, like, add this to your political agenda, like, offer to people that you're gonna make peace when you're elected. So, like, people should be able to proactive. It's about proactivity, like, as if we got like 100 families, like 193 families.
I'm Tolga, I need to interrupt you as well. I'm sorry, because I can hear your enthusiasm. I can really feel that this is burning in you. I can definitely feel that need that you want to create something. But if you want to handle us here right now and you want to tap into the resources that we have, I would please ask you to be really clear, like, or let us ask clarifying questions on, do you want to help with the website and you want to find people for the website? Do you want to help have help with an event that you're organizing? Do you, so this is, it needs to be, right now it's very, very big. And I think what would help us is like find one specific thing that you want us to do right now and let us work on that.
Yeah, I want to make the website first better conveyed, like better understood the project by any person, which takes maybe some illustrations, some storytelling video, which I'm trying to make like from the first person's, side, like, hey, I'm this person from this country. I just saw this.
So can I run a checksum right quick? So
Stuff like that.
you want us to help? We can provide some help on how to clarify the website.
Yeah, and also,
Hold on, no scope creep, Dolgai, no scope creep. I will switch into agile coaching mode if I have to. Thank you, Vera. Sherry's got a question. If you had these people, what are the things that you want these people to do or be proactive with?
the people that can help making it, or like anybody that's using their rights to stand equal. I mean, the people here like that's gonna help on that, or people that gonna see the web page, or being proactive, like correspond to their, is it their action, or what you mean?
Yes.
Which?
Well, I think that's part of the question, is that so what at this stage of the game is the important, it is the type of people you want help with. What I hear is that there's a sense of, I want people to engage with this thing, but there's also this question about I want people to help make the thing as well. And if you had to choose between those two, of people using the thing that you've made so far, or people helping you to continue to develop it, which one of those is the most important to you right now?
Right now, the people that develops that is more important, because then there will be lots of more stuff going in there, which gonna make it way better for people that maybe gonna see that later.
Okay.
And I want them to see them in the best condition and with much more perspective, observations.
I think we have enough. Like I said, you've given us a lot. So okay, what I'll do is I'll invite you to turn off your webcam and microphone and listen while we consult and how to help you get more help with regards to the development of this thing.
All right.
All right. So anybody?
This is Irene. I was just thinking about, he's got to get this distilled into an elevator pitch, that's more concise. And I guess I'm just wondering about making, what are the skill sets that people need? Like, I wasn't sure if this was about having people help him build a set of competencies and skills, like in their own life, so that there's not all this conflict that escalates to war, or like, it seems very mushy and unclear to me. And I wondered if there's a set of competencies he could develop. I don't know.
I'm going to make a suggestion based on what I know from my own experiences. What I'm experiencing here as I listen to him is that I think I would offer is that what maybe to do first, because he is so full of so much, is that a community, a small community of people that he can be in conversation with, that can help him. Because my experience of him, the term that I used is verbal processor. He's got all this stuff, and I said what I'm sensing is that he's a bit overwhelmed, and that comes across. So it's kind of hard to hear all this, because it is. I mean, it's all beautiful, but it's quite complex and it's quite unformed. And I sense that a small community of people who would help him walk through what and refine and frame and, you know, creating a cohesive narrative that he can then communicate to the world in a way that's going to help people engage. It's like trying to take a sip off a fire hydrant right now. You know, it's just wow. And from my own experience, I mean, I wrote a book, which was very hard for me to do. And what made it possible for me to do that was that I found a community of people who would help me get my thoughts organized enough to tell a story. And so I think that's what I would offer is there a way to create a small, intimate, trust-based community that of people who share his passion but can help him continue to speak long enough so that he can find the consistent threads and tell and create a narrative that could then be condensed down to the elevator speech.
And nearly building upon that, and maybe one step before, I was thinking, what would kind of maybe a crowd of people, like you just said, Rachel, but maybe just a person, a trusted person that he cares about, where he can share about his stories of peace. Because what is coming over right now is that there's also a reflection of not being in peace, which I totally understand, but like something that brings him to the essence of what he wants, and then move from that point one step at a time, because you cannot go 500 steps at one time. So what is the essence? What is that feeling of peace? Where did I have that? What is it the website that I then really need to build? Or is it actually a community, a small community where we share stories about peace, and then build it from there? And then I don't have to do it by myself, but people in that community might have also ideas they want to build on the website, etc. So it's not all on him, but it's about what is the first small, elegant step to bring also a sense of peace to me first, for then making the step outside.
One possibility that comes to mind for me is the TREU online course that is running now. It would be amazing if you would want to join it and take the modules, because it's like designed for people who want to be change makers, but also like to start from a really broad view and getting to know the system, and then going deep inside and connect to your intention and let go of what's no longer needed, and then start to prototype and do tangible things, preferably together with others. And it feels like it would serve him a lot if he could, one, connect to the community and the people, because the themes that he mentioned are very resonant there. And secondly, walk through this process and have this narrowing down and then moving to action, or broadening and deepening. So I could look for the link and share that one. I can highly recommend it. It's from September until December, but you can start at any time, basically.
Excellent. I think that's a great idea that sort of connects two specific ideas. I'm about to see my son for the first time in 2 weeks, so I'm gonna have to make this really quick. First and foremost, 9 whys. Do 9 whys yourself. Find one other person to lead you through the inquiry of what makes this so meaningful, significant, and important to you over and over and over again. Hey, buddy. Awesome. And the second, I think your suggestion, Anne, is perfect, because finding the others is Let me be very specific about this. So like this space that we are in right now, this wise crowds, is my way of finding the others, right? And part of that has to do with going to where the others are and being of as much service as I can be to them, rather than I've been organizing user groups and shit for a long time, and just inviting people into spaces is really, really extraordinarily hard. But going to spaces where those people are already accumulated and interfacing and interacting and finding ways to contribute to the people that are working in different ways on this project would be super helpful. That is my time. You guys can talk amongst yourselves. I'm gonna hang out with my little boy. Anybody else? Yeah, we're pretty close to our time boundary. So
Papa,
I need to go. So
Yes.
anyway, thanks. This was fun. This was
Yeah.
interesting. And
I need to go.
Tolga, why don't you come back and in 30 seconds, in 1 minute or less, tell us what the one thing that you're gonna do as a result of this consultation.
Papa,
Yeah.
ik ben gewoon nieuwe dingen geleerd. Mama,
All right. Bye guys. I love you.
weet je wat ik van mama
See you next time.
Thank you.
Ik heb